Once upon a time, there was a fisherman who ventured out every day, casting his net for times before returning home with whatever fortune had provided to feed his family. One day, as he cast his net, it caught something heavy and wouldn't budge. He removed his clothes, set them aside, and dove in to see what had ensnared his net. To his dismay, he found a donkey tangled in it. Deeply saddened, he invoked the name of God, cleaned his net, and cast it once more. Again, the net became heavy. He undressed and dove in to handle the situation, only to find a pot full of mud. His heart sank, but he cleaned the net and cast it a third time. This time, it caught heavy objects that were of no use to him. Frustrated, the fisherman raised his hands in prayer, asking God for sustenance. He cast his net one last time, and again it grew heavy. He removed his clothes and dragged the net ashore to inspect its contents. To his surprise, he found a brass jar sealed with lead and bearing the seal of Solomon. He thought of selling it, as it could fetch 10 gold dinars. Curiosity piqued, he used his knife to open the jar's lid. Smoke billowed out, filling the space between the earth and the sky. It coalesced into the form of a jinni whose legs were like ship masts, mouth like a cavern, nose like a pitcher, and eyes like lanterns. The jinni cried out in terror, begging for mercy from the prophet Solomon. The fisherman calmed him, saying, "Almighty One, do you ask about Solomon, the prophet of God? Solomon died 1800 years ago. We are now in the latter days. What is your story, and why were you imprisoned in this jar?" The jinni, named Sakr, explained that he was a rebellious jinni who defied Solomon. As punishment, Solomon imprisoned him in the jar and had him cast to the bottom of the sea. The jinni then offered the fisherman a wish but stipulated that he must choose his own manner of death. Startled, the fisherman asked what he had done to deserve death. The jinni replied, "Listen to my story, fisherman. I am one of the rebellious jinn. I defied Solomon, son of David. Solomon's vizier Asif captured me and brought me before Solomon. Solomon offered me a chance to submit, but I refused. He imprisoned me in this jar, sealed it with lead, and imprinted it with the greatest name. The jinn carried me to the sea's depths, where I remained for 100 years. I vowed that whoever freed me would receive eternal wealth, but no one came. Another 100 years passed, and I promised to open the earth's treasures for my rescuer, but again no one came. For 100 years later, I vowed to grant 3 wishes to anyone who freed me, yet still no one came. Enraged, I swore that whoever freed me next would die. And now you have freed me, so choose how you wish to die." The fisherman, hearing this, said, "I freed you, only for you to promise my death. Spare me, and God will spare you. Do not kill me, or God will destroy you." The jinni insisted on killing him, telling him to choose his death. The fisherman pleaded for mercy, but the jinni remained steadfast. The fisherman then invoked the greatest name inscribed on Solomon's seal and asked the jinni to demonstrate how he had fit into the small jar. The jinni turned into smoke and re-entered the jar. The fisherman quickly sealed it and called out to the jinni, saying, "Now it is your turn to choose your death, for I will cast you back into the sea and build a house here to warn all who come that a jinni resides here." Panicking, the jinni begged to be released, promising not to harm the fisherman. The fisherman said, "Are you lying and want something to happen to us, as happened to the vizier of King Yunan and the sage Duban?" The jinni answered in amazement, "What happened to them?" The fisherman said, "Know, O jinni, that there was once, in ancient times and bygone ages, in the city of the Persians and the land of the Romans, a king named King Yunan. He was wealthy, with an army, might, and allies from all nations. However, his body was afflicted with leprosy, and no physician or wise man could cure him. He had tried various medications and ointments to no avail. In the city of King Yunan, there arrived an old sage named Sage Duban. He was well versed in Greek, Persian, Roman, Arabic, and Syriac books, as well as in medicine, astronomy, and the principles of their wisdom. He knew the properties of plants, herbs, and roots, both harmful and beneficial, and had mastered the knowledge of philosophers and all medical sciences. When the sage arrived in the city and stayed for a few days, he heard about the king's condition and the leprosy that God had afflicted him with, which had baffled all the physicians and learned men. When the sage learned of this, he became preoccupied with it. The next morning, he donned his finest clothes and went to see King Yunan. He greeted the king and spoke in a courteous manner, introducing himself. He said, "O king, I have heard of what has befallen you and how many physicians have failed to find a cure for your condition. I will cure you, O king, without giving you any medicine to drink or ointment to apply.